KXSP, Omaha's ESPN Radio. Listen on AM 590, AM 590 ESPNradio.com, and on the free ESPN Radio app. It's time to strap in and get ready for the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Dan and Dirk are live in the studio today, ready to hear from you at 402-573-0590.
Well, good morning to you, race fans, and welcome to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online, joeskarting.com. Fast-paced indoor karting just across the river. Get to Joe's Karting today, 23rd Avenue. You can make a day of it. Go over to Joe's Karting, do a little bit of racing, go over to the movie theaters, catch a movie, get some dinner at Quaker Steak and Lube, the official watering hole of the front stretch, and then you might as well head back over to Joe's Karting and do a little more racing.
And if you're going to take a tour around that Joe's Karting track, you might as well enter that contest and go for a shot to drive a sprint car, a late model, or a modified via the Kenny Wallace driving experience.
You can get more information on what we're talking about at joeskarting.com, the official sponsor of the front stretch. Boy, I tell you what, Dirk, this has been a great weekend.
Great weekend. A lot of stuff, a lot of info, good racing. And before we forget, happy Mother's Day to everybody out there.
Very much so. Happy Mother's Day to my mother. And, of course, you wanted to say a little piece to yours. Just wish you a little happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Thanks for putting up with all of our stuff. You fans know what that's like. You have to put up with this every Sunday morning, but our moms had to do it for a lot more than that.
Yeah, they had to get us to you.
So we got down here on Thursday morning, about noon, and we had a couple of really good interviews lined up. And every day we just had about 4 or 5 good interviews lined up. I mean, we've talked to some great mid-level drivers and a couple of really good drivers and some really good industry insiders.
Yeah, I mean, we stumbled upon some really good interviews that were not scheduled, but just kind of happenstance threw them our way.
Isn't that kind of funny? We had Johnny Sauter, Ben Kennedy, and we had Landon Castle. No, we had Johnny Sauter, Ben Kennedy, and Spencer Gallagher of GMS Racing, all scheduled for Thursday. And then we ran into a couple of people and just set the microphone down and started talking. And then on Friday, we were just hanging out in the media center waiting for some action to start on the track because it was a night race. And Pat Warren walks by. So I said, the president of Kansas Speedway. So I said, hey Pat, you got a couple of minutes for us? And he gave us, 12 minutes on the air. And then
a whole bunch of inside dope later.
So we'll have some of those great interviews lined up for you. We also sat down with Johnny Sauter, Bobby Pierce, and Chris Buescher, Landon Castle, those of Front Row Racing.
And Bobby Pierce did tell us he is trying to work the Silver Dollar Nationals into his schedule. He wants to be there.
So everybody knows that it was quite a crazy weekend last weekend at Talladega. I wanted to sit down with somebody who, frankly, knows more than you and I do about the everyday happenings of the track. You know, this is our one weekend we get to experience what the NASCAR circus, and that's, I mean, after seeing what we've seen for the last couple of days, it is a complete circus, and I am in awe the way they're able to stay organized and stay on schedule and everything that has to happen.
How they keep all the elephants in the tent is amazing.
Absolutely. Well, free food. That's how they do it. That's how they keep me in the media center most of the
Big pile of peanuts in the middle.
But we sat down with Mike Massaro, and it's no secret around here that I'm a big fan of NBCSN, and I'm kind of
both are.
Bit of a negative Nancy when it comes to the Fox broadcast and the quality that they put out. So we started off the interview by just frankly begging Mike Massaro to take over the broadcast as soon as possible.
You know, I'm enjoying watching the Fox broadcasts. I think they do a great job. Jeff Gordon's been tremendous in the booth. I mean, I've learned a lot from him. So I've enjoyed it. I am looking forward to getting back on pit road, though, come July. I've been kind of bored, for the lack of a better way to describe it, sitting around. Now, I guess I've been able to use this time wisely. I've gone to some of my kids' baseball games, which I won't get to do come July, and I'm trying to really enjoy that while I can.
Yeah, you were just kind of talking as we were kind of getting ready for the interview that your responsibilities are a lot less now. It's kind of just, you're kind of going around kind of talking with the teams and just kind of, it's a little bit more relaxed rather than, are you kind of feeling more like a fan and a little bit less like a reporter?
I'm conflicted, to be honest. I mean, when I was with ESPN, and I was with ESPN for 14 years, when I'd come to the racetrack, we'd always get there the night before anything happened because we'd have to be there first thing in the morning because ESPN had so many platforms. We were doing live shots and reports throughout each of the days. With NBC, NBC, there's not as many platforms to broadcast NASCAR on. We have NASCAR America, which is a daily news and information show. And right now, as far as what my responsibilities are at the Kansas Speedway, essentially getting post-race interviews, an interview with the winner, and covering any stories that might come out of Kansas that can air on NASCAR America Monday evening. So it's been fun in that sense, but I am used to working a lot more. So, but I miss the ESPN folks. I'm glad you guys asked me to be on. I still feel like I'm part of that family.
It's a very big family, and it was nice that with NBC picking up, they were able to pick up the talent from NBC or from ESPN, including yourself. And it was good to see some of the good NASCAR reporters that have been with the sport for so long get picked up by NBC and continue that tradition.
Well, thanks. Dave Burns and I are two guys that came from ESPN to come over to NBC. But let me tell you, the folks that surround us, the NBC put together an amazing team. People that I've already learned a lot from. I really enjoy working with our anchor, Rick Allen. I think he's a tremendous talent. The guys in our booth, Steve Letarte, Jeff Burton, I've learned a lot from them for a long, long time, even before I broadcasted with them. And on pit road, working with Marty Snyder and Kelly Stavis, I mean, those are very talented pit reporters, too. So I'm very proud to be part of this team.
Let's talk about a couple of the news stories that came out of Talladega. Monday morning, actually, I think it was probably about 10 minutes after the checkered flag flew at Talladega, that people were really kind of sitting back going, that got out of hand really quickly.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. What I saw in Talladega was not tremendously different than what we've seen in Talladega in past years. Close quarters racing, tight packs, 3-4 wide, 11 rows deep or so. We see that year in, year out at that place. Dale Earnhardt Jr. kind of said, everyone should just kind of relax a little bit and just accept it because that's what it is. And I feel a lot along those lines because, unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. Now, I got to be honest, nobody wants to see anybody get airborne, flip over like Matt Kenseth did or like Chris Buescher did, Kevin Harvick at the end of that race. The very last thing any of us want to see is a driver get hurt. So while I enjoy the excitement of a Talladega race or a Daytona race, I am with the folks who are calling for a little something to be done to maybe improve the safety even more. And I say even more, I think that's an important phrase because they've come a long way already with the safer barriers and with the way the car is designed these days. There's so much that has been gained on the safety front, over the course of the last 15 years or so. So you can't discount that. But, Ray Evernham was on our show this week, and I thought he made a great point. He said, for whatever reason, it just seems like the drivers are absorbing more energy inside that cockpit of the race car, more so than they have in the last few years. And I saw that too. You saw Danica get out, and she was visibly shaken. She said she had x-rays taken. You saw A.J. Allmendinger on the ground. Joey Logano the day before in the Xfinity race said it was one of the hardest hits he's ever taken, maybe the hardest hit he's ever taken. So something may need to be looked at in terms of what can be done to lessen the impact the driver is absorbing inside that race car. Ray had a good suggestion, I thought. He said, while we're trying to figure this out, perhaps we need to find ways to slow them down a little bit while we're trying to figure this out. And his suggestion was to maybe change the restrictor plate to bring the speeds down and maybe change the rear spoiler to increase the drag. So whether or not NASCAR does that, I don't know. I'm sure they're hearing 100 opinions right now and 100 different ideas, and that may be conservative, maybe more than that for sure. But I'm sure NASCAR is doing everything they can and taking in all the information they can to make a wise decision before we get to the next restrictor plate race, which just so happens to be the first NBC race of the year in Daytona come July.
I can't imagine what happened to Talladega is probably going to happen again for a very long time because that seemed to be, lack of a better term, a perfect storm with. We were always excited about super speedways. The excitement ramps up those last 10 laps, but it felt like every lap was the last 10 laps with that storm just sitting on the outside of the speedway, and so drivers were a little bit pushed to get up to the front a little quicker.
You're absolutely right, because drivers thought the end of the race was coming sooner than was forecasted. Yeah, there was a sense of urgency, absolutely, not knowing when the checkers, well, it wouldn't be the checkers, but the yellow would come out and basically conclude the race if it did rain. So, they were going hard. They didn't want to leave anything on the table at that particular point in time. They felt like if they could get to the front, it was time to go, and we saw that. It made it exciting. It was fun to watch. I mean, there's no question, but it was scary too. I mean, you can't deny it was scary. If you are a fan of these drivers and you truly care for them, and as a media member, I do, because, I'm fortunate enough to get to know them. The last thing I want to see happen is anybody get hurt.
Nah, I've been involved with racing all my life, and you've been around it a long time. Go back 2 and 3 weeks to Bristol and Richmond. Me personally, I was watching on television. Those were a couple of the best races I've seen in 10, 12, 15 years. What do you think about the way they went?
I love short track racing as a whole. And as you mentioned, I've been doing this for a while. And I think like you and I and a lot of folks who've been around the sport for some time, you grew up at a short track. So that's the type of racing you're accustomed to seeing. Close quarters racing. There's always side-by-side action. And it seems like the leader is always being chased. He's got to look in his rearview mirror. And, it's not like a lot of racetracks where you can get 6-7 car lengths on the guy chasing you. We saw that at Richmond and Bristol, and obviously that's exciting and fun to watch.
There's a lot of confusion amongst NASCAR fans of when the 5 lug nut rule was addressed the Monday, I believe it was after Richmond, by NASCAR, said we're going to look at this rule again. On Wednesday, Tony Stewart came out, kind of blasted NASCAR a little bit, and then they fined him, and then a couple days later, they changed the rule. Take us through the process of why NASCAR decided to continue to fine Tony Stewart and make him write that check.
I'm not sure I can speak with any authority on why NASCAR fined them. I think that's probably a question for them. Certainly NASCAR has a policy in regards to how they want drivers to publicly speak about the sport, and I think it really came down to that. I don't think they were denying that it was a safety issue. I think that they want to get their arms around controversial subjects, and they don't want public statements made. Now, had Tony come to them behind closed doors and made the same statements, I think it would have been received a lot differently.
And I think we're in a renewed, a brand new atmosphere of communication between the drivers and the sanctioning body that I've never seen as a 10, 20-year fan of the sport, that I don't know why Tony didn't feel like he could have gone over to the hauler and said, can we look at this, please, rather than he needed to pick up a microphone and say it in the media.
I don't know how it all went down, but I sympathize sometimes with drivers in those situations, because it's not as if he called the press conference to talk about it. He was asked a question about it, and he answered it. And, as a media member, I appreciate when a driver answers my questions. But it's not Tony's fault. I mean, he was asked a question. He didn't, call a press conference and say, hey, I've got something to say. So, I mean, you got to keep that in mind when you think about it.
We're 10 races down. Kansas Speedway GoBowling 400 was the 11th race. What's your take on some of the teams that so far in the season, we're about a third of the way through, have surprised you? For the good and for the bad?
Well, I hate to use the word surprise because it's not a surprise. But, Joe Gibbs Racing, I guess I didn't expect them to be as good as they've been. I mean, they've been great. We saw this last year. They were great for periods of time. Virtually unbeatable at times, it would seem. So, I won't call it a surprise, but just very, very impressed by JGR. There are some teams that are still I guess struggling, if you will, for the lack of a better way to describe it. Teams like Richard Childress Racing, Chip Ganassi Racing, they're underperforming right now. I guess if you were looking for a surprise, it might be Hendrick Motorsports. I mean, everybody expected them to be the dominant force they've always been. And while they've been good, they've been very solid, they have not been the dominant force. So I guess I'm a little surprised there. And Joey Logano, I think a lot of folks figured Joey Logano would have a win by now, and he doesn't. So we'll see what happens.
And that was, again, Micah Massaro of NBCSN. They take over the broadcast at Daytona for Independence Weekend, and both of us just cannot wait.
And we will speak with Mike again, I'm sure, in October.
Yep. We talked about a couple of things, and I think we've got a few minutes left in the turn. Is an avid Tony Stewart fan. Is something that
no.
I know. I was really insulted by Tony felt like he needed to say something about the lug nut rule. Now, Mike brings up a really good point. Maybe I need to back off Tony a little bit, that Tony didn't call a press conference and stand out in front of Stewart Haas Racing and say, NASCAR needs to change this rule. NASCAR's, putting these drivers at risk. NASCAR's doing this. He was sitting at a press conference announcing that he would be, I think it was when he was talking about he was going to be part-time at Talladega. He was only going to race till the first caution or the first opportunity to get out of the car.
Well, he was just announcing his return to racing.
Yeah,
period.
And he was, he'd returned a couple of weeks before that, but he was asked the question, and so he answered it. And so, listen, he wasn't fined for talking about the lug nut rule. He was fined for violating the driver conduct policy.
Questioning NASCAR.
Right, which is something you don't do to NASCAR, and you don't do it to any sports league. No sports league appreciates that. As soon as you do it to the NFL, you're going to get a fine, you're going to get pulled into Roger Goodell's office, and you're going to get told, you keep your mouth shut, because these athletes have a much larger bully pulpit than the sanctioning body does. So those are kind of some of the topics that have gone over last couple of weeks.
Well, especially, and Tony's fan base is so huge.
Yeah.
Probably the only person that has maybe more listeners or more ears tuned on him is Dale Jr.
Yeah.
In that case. So,
I would almost think, and okay, probably I'm playing favoritism here, but when they talk about NASCAR's most popular driver, obviously Dale wins. But I think overall, Tony's more of a recognizable driver because
he makes more news.
He's huge in the dirt world. I mean, he's the biggest ambassador the dirt world has right now to asphalt racing and to bridge that gap between the two sports.
I mean, Kenny Schrader had that role for a long time, but since Kenny's not on TV on Sunday anymore, he's kind of backed off. I mean, Kenny's doing a ton of dirt racing and still does a little asphalt racing, ARCA stuff. But, Tony is the man that bridges the gap between the two right now. There's a few others that, Kyle Larson's got a little bit of that going on.
I think Rico does too.
Rico's gonna get huge in this sport. Yeah. He really is. And he's just a great guy,
We've got some audio from Rico we're going to play in turn number 3. Now, you were very busy last night. I think I should have put my Fitbit on you last night as I was sitting up in the air-conditioned, the sheltered media press box up in the grandstands. You were walking around pit road gathering lug nuts, and I thought it was really cool. You decided you were going to do team lug nut packages, and we're going to give those away. Let's give away one now. What's one of them that we have to give away?
We have got a 4-pack of lug nuts consisting of Stewart Haas cars. So you get a Danica, a Harvick, Kurt, and Tony. Mm-hmm. And trivia-wise,
we'll ask a real simple question. I don't think I've posted anything about this one.
Top rookie finisher in the GoBowling 400. Who was the top rookie? Had a great run, so it should be real easy to figure out.
402-573-0590. Who was the top finishing rookie last night for the GoBowling 400 at Kansas Speedway? We're going to take a break, give you a chance to call in. Turn number 2 is also going to see Stan Cisar. I-80 Dirt Classic was on Friday. Eagle Raceway raced last night on Saturday. And so we'll get some recap about some sprint car action and some local dirt racing around the area. You'll be back here on the front stretch.
Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Dan and Dirk are rolling into turn 2 with a little attitude on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the radio show. This is the front stretch presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. It looks like we've got a listener on the line that thinks they know who was the top finishing rookie last night in the GoBowling.com 400 at Kansas Speedway. Tim from Columbus, you're on the air. Tim, turn down your radio for us.
Yep, it's down.
Thanks, buddy. Who do you think was the top finishing rookie last night at Kansas Speedway?
Ryan Blaney.
Good job. Do you know where he finished?
Oh, the 6th. It was tough. Was it 6th, 7th?
It was 5th. You were close, but you still got the answer right. I just threw in a little extra toughness there. Hang on the line for us. We're going to get your information, and we're going to ship you over race-used lug nuts for all 4 Stewart Haas Racing teams.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot for listening. All right, let's head over to the phone lines, over to Stan Cisar, the voice of the Speedway. Stan was at I-80 Speedway on Friday night for the inaugural I-80 Dirt Classic and the season kickoff for the National Sprint League, and then he was over at Eagle Raceway, his usual home, on Saturday nights for all the racing action. Stan, how you doing this morning?
Hey, real good. I'm up.
So are we. It was a challenge this morning, but I think you were probably up at the dirt track a lot later than we were at the racetrack.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting night last night. I'll get into the outcome at Eagle just a little bit later on, but Friday night, Mother Nature finally treated us to a great night, great weather night on Friday evening for some racing at I-80 Speedway. National Sprint League in the house, Casey Kane Foundation presenting the U.S. Dirt Classic. One of 4 races, the Dirt Classic races held throughout the United States, and one of them right here at our own I-80 Speedway. And what a good race it was, and it was kind of a surprise ending just a little bit. Certainly a guy with a lot of accomplishments, but the way the starting lineup was stacked up at the beginning of that feature, I don't think anybody expected the dominating performance that we've seen. But 20 cars checked in for time trials. Danny Lasowski, he was I believe the 19th car out, and he picked up the fast time, and which was kind of interesting. And unique format. This was a van voted on format. They had time trials. They started the first set of heat race straight up, depending on your time trial. Fast cars started at the front. Second set of heat races, they completely inverted the starting lineups from the first set of heat races, and it produced some different winners. And it produced, some guys that kind of struggled starting at the rear of that first heat race. They actually, finished in the top couple positions in their heat races on the inverted lineups. But a couple guys in particular, I got to mention Jake Bubach. He was driving the Nebraska 1B car of Greg Bowles, and he had a good second place finish in that set of qualifiers. And Dakota Edwardson from Omaha, Nebraska, he picked up a win in his qualifier and held off some pretty stout competition in that deal. So, good runs by those guys when they had a chance to start up in the front. But let's talk about the A main event. The drivers accumulated points all night long, in their qualifying time trials, in their heat races, and in their qualifiers. And they started that A feature straight up. Brian Brown, high point guy for the night, by a couple points over Ian Madsen. Danny Lasowski starting back in the third spot. Craig Delansky, Davey Heskin, Dale Blaney. You talk about Ryan Blaney. And Dale Blaney made the trip over. He's a regular on the All-Star Circuit of Champions, and he was starting back in there, starting back in the 7th position, Terry McCarl. McCarl's been around for a long time. You can never count him out. On the
what
second
a stack!
restart,
what a stacked set of cars, huh?
Oh, I mean, it gets better. Tim Katie, Britt Tatnell, Linton Jeffrey, Sam Haferteef Jr., Logan Forler. I mean, all the dogs were in the house last night, and some people say, well, gee, they only had 20 cars. But you take those 20 cars, and there were 12 of them that you could throw in a bag, and any one of them could have won, even with the caliber of competition that were in that deal. And Terry McCarl comes out of the 4th position. He started 7th. By this restart, he had worked his way up to 4th, and they dropped the green flag, and within a lap, he had railed the field up around the high side of I-80 Speedway, and within 2 laps, he had a straightaway lead on the field. Wow. And the only thing that kept everybody close was a couple caution flags and lap traffic. But
I saw there was a quick red flag.
Well, yeah. The question that will remain unanswered. It's one of those things that makes you go, And nobody knew whether it was an electrical issue or whatever. but certainly, out of the clear blue sky, the red flag comes out. The red light blinks on. Yeah. And nobody fessed up to, well, I didn't hit the red light. No, I didn't hit the red light.
That sounds like, what was it, a couple of years ago, there was an official coming in and accidentally tripped the caution lights as he was leaning up against a pole or something. This happened a couple of years ago and screwed up Clint Boyer's chance at winning the races.
And like I say, I don't think it had any outcome whatsoever on the race because McCarl had the setup. I mean, it was obvious that he had the setup. Dale Blaney had maneuvered his way up into the 2nd spot, and everybody thought, well, maybe Dale's got just a little bit something for Terry, but T-Mac was on a rail, and once he got so far out in front, he was playing around with some different lines, and the track was in such good shape. Coming off of turn 4 in the feature, McCarl was still actually pulling wheel stands down the front stretch, pulling the front wheels off the ground, and the crowd was going crazy, you know. But the final order finish, Terry McCarl took the win. Brian Brown comes home in the second spot. Craig Delansky, he's got a good ride, you know, with a good team over in Knoxville. He comes home third. Danny Lasowski is fourth. Caleb Blaney out of Ohio rounding out the top 5 finishers. But all in all, it was a great night of racing down there. A really good crowd on hand. Everybody saw some really good racing. Had a great field of sport mods in the house for the sport class, and a pretty exciting race. Ryan Jenkins, the youngster, 16 years of age, picked up yet another victory in the sport mod division. And I tell you what, he's given the veterans fits in this deal, and it just kind of bodes well for the future of the sport. There's a lot of youngsters coming up that have tremendous talent, and I think we'll see them moving up through the ranks.
Yeah, I saw Ryan Jenkins posted a picture of that Jack Daniels bottle and said "Winner, winner, chicken dinner." I think he's gonna have to let that Jack Daniels age just a little bit.
Yeah.
well, I think old Jim and Jeff might help him out with that just a little bit, because they're old enough to drink it. You know, Ryan actually, a third generation. I actually raced against his grandfather. I shouldn't say that. I'm aging myself here again, of course, like as if people don't know. But years and years ago, when I had the opportunity to race a few times, you know, back in the 70s. But all in all, a great night. I think everybody happy with the turnout. Raised some money for the Casey Kane Foundation. Jaron Adams was at the house. You know, Casey's brother-in-law. Unfortunately, Casey unable to make the trip up, but it was a great night racing. And I tell you, I'm thinking they're looking forward to maybe having episode number 2 in 2017.
Hey, Stan, I want to shift gears just a little bit. We were reading on Facebook that Dave Blaney had gotten a pretty bad crash at Eldora there on Friday night. His daughter had posted that he was okay. Have you got any updates on that?
Well, I was going to touch on that just a little bit, and it caused some confusion at I-80 because I had gotten word about an accident, and they had the drivers mixed up, and it caused some concern. But come to find out, it was Dale Blaney. This happened in one of their qualifying sessions, and he got the car upside down, pretty violent wreck up at Eldora. And as you know, Eldora, you know, it's kind of like I-80. It's a really high-speed joint, you know, and high bank turns, big track, and they haul the mail, you know, and he got upside down pretty violently, and they did transport him to the hospital, but they did CAT scans, and although stiff and sore and everything, no apparent damage, so the prognosis is really good. You know, Dan Motter, who the team owner, he posted something on there that he was with them at the hospital, and after they had run some tests, and they were checking him out very thoroughly, but the news is good that David Blaney will make a complete recovery. So
good to hear.
Good.
Yep.
And they were talking about that a little last night on the broadcast. Excuse me, is another Blaney was racing in the Sprint Cup Series and holding up his own pretty well. That it was good that his dad was doing okay. Let's switch gears real quick. I think we've got a couple minutes left. Let's talk about what happened in America's home track at Eagle Raceway.
Now we head down to Eagle, and once again, a little cooler than everybody expected, I think, but that kind of helped the track conditions out all night long. Once again had a great field of cars, 29 IMCA Race Saver Sprint cars once again, so that class alive and well, and you know, at Eagle Raceway. I got to talk about, you know, I'll kind of do the winners here just a little bit. Cole Rico, who was defending champion in the Sport Compact division, he picked up his first feature win at Eagle Raceway of the year last night. In the Sport Mod division, it was really a good race. You know, there were 2 or 3 cars in contention all the way, but you know, what can you say about Mark Lighting? Mark picked up a win. He had a little problem. Looked like he might have been pretty competitive the previous night over at I-80, but he did get the win at Eagle Raceway. In the hobby stock division, and we had a new winner, Damon Richards, out of David City, Nebraska. You know, Damon had campaigned the Mopars for year after year, and he was carrying the Mopar banner. This year he shifted gears a little bit and went to a Chevrolet, and he's been in contention every week. He got caught up in a wreck on opening night down there, but last couple of weeks he's been really competitive, and he picked up the win last night in that hobby stock division, and his fans up in the crowd. This is his first full season of racing at Eagle Raceway on Saturday nights, and he did a great job, picked up that first win. The race of the night, without a doubt, the modified A feature. Chad Anderson, Dustin Anderson, pair of brothers starting in the front row. And great field of cars on hand once again. those guys put on a race that I tell you what, that one's going to be worth the video, because they were side by side for almost the complete 20 laps, and I don't believe they ever touched in the whole race. But another race that the crowd was going nuts, and I think they got a standing ovation when the checkered flag flew as they came around on their cool down lap, because the quality of that race and the intensity was just so good. It was one of the best races that we had seen all night.
And I think, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, then we move up into the Race Saver Sprint Car A feature. The fastest 20 cars taking the green flag, and unfortunately going down into turn number 3 on the first lap. Pretty massive wreck down there. Jason Danley and Trevor Grossenbacher getting together, and Grossenbacher violent series of flips down there, and Doug Lovegrove actually went underneath Trevor, and it peeled the top wing right off the top of Lovegrove's car.
I saw a picture of that on Facebook last night, and that's not something you can buff out.
And the good news is that Trevor jumped right out of that car. He was okay, and he had a few choice words for another driver on his way back to the pit area, but it was one of those things, and Trevor's one intense competitor, and he had a good ride last night, and those cars are so equal, and the competition is so close in that class. Everybody's in a hurry to get to the front, and he might have misjudged something. Another driver didn't quite see him, in time. However, I'm sure, it wasn't an intentional incident, but he got the bad end of the deal, and unfortunately, I think he pretty much destroyed that car number 35, and says it might be a couple of weeks before he gets back out in a replacement machine. But so the feature goes on. You talk about rookies. A guy that was just a rookie a couple of years ago, come out of the Sport Compact division, Ryan King, one of his best races of the year, and he and Joey Danley coming out of the Sport Modified division, and looked like Danley had the race in hand, but Tyler Drueke just kept working on him. With about 5 to go, they got to some lap traffic. Drueke catches him. 2 laps to go. Danley blew a radiator hose. I don't think it had an outcome on the race, but it was just enough of a hiccup over in turn number 2 that it might have slowed his momentum down a little bit. And he says, "I'm going for the win," and he stood on it for the final 2 laps. But with 1 to go, Tyler got around him, and Tyler Drueke picked up the win. And Joey ended up in the second spot. Lee Bowes, his best run after getting back into racing again beginning of the year, he comes home with a 3rd place finish. And veteran Ron Love, who goes back years and years, normally racing that mini sprint class, but dabbled in sprint cars, and the family's been involved in racing. He come up with a great 4th place finish. And then the rest of the story, pre-race or post-race inspection on the front stretch, they found Tyler Drueke's car and Joey Danley's car non-compliant with the Race Saver rules. And that handed the win to Lee Bowes. And it was, he says, "Well, I hate to win one that way." He says, but he says, "Mine's legal," and it's really a shame. And we can ask Dirk about this a little bit. We're talking about thousands here. And it was the cam lift, which is people listening in, it's the height of the cam is what allows that valve, that cylinder, to be getting air and gas in it. 1 1,000th, 3 1,000ths, and everybody says, "Well, geez, that close. Why don't they give them a little bit?" Well, if they give them a little bit, they're going to take that, and then they're going to ask for another little bit. And they got rules. I hate to see it happen. Those guys put on one whale of a race. They drove their hearts out, but yet, what I don't understand, and I want Dirk to comment about this, why did these guys take it to the limit that close, knowing that those 1 or 2 thousandths are not going to be the difference between winning and losing? I think there's too many variables, the track conditions, the car setup, the driving ability. Those 1 or 2 thousandths, why would they gamble on that to lose a win, when it's that close and they know they're going to get teched after the race?
I don't know why they would gamble on it, but my guess would be that the camshaft actually had a spec. I'm going to use the number 450, so 450 thousandths lift. And if they didn't check that when they got their camshaft, it might have been a manufacturer's error that cam had 453 thousandths.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, you would think that before that engine, went out of the shop, that everything and I was kind of hanging around while they were watching things because I knew I was going to want to get the final rundown, and I think they had one of the engine builders anyway, I think, was there and kind of supervising the process, and he said when I built that engine and I checked it, it was 3 thousandths under.
Is there a competitive advantage to being over, under?
Well, there's definitely a competitive advantage to be over because you're going to get more airflow. Airflow is horsepower. An engine's just a big air pump.
Okay.
But there are so many other things that you can do, and the basic one, or the most commonly used one, is to use a rocker arm with a different ratio, which opens your valve faster, which gives you more flow. That's the most common one. I don't think, and people have made mistakes. We ran into one at Sunset years back with Rob Walker. It was the last thing you'd expected was an illegal crankshaft, but we ran into it.
Well, and the thing about it is, you really hate to see this happen, but I got to jump on the bandwagon here and say, as popular as this race saver class is in the sprint car world and how it's kind of taken the sport by storm and gotten guys back into racing, that made it a little bit more affordable for guys, it's nothing if it doesn't have tech, and the only thing you can say is if they're teching hard and people know they're going to get tech every week, it's going to keep the guys from bending the rules a little bit, and it's going to try to keep the affordability factor into the sport, and it's going to be able to get new guys coming in. Let's shift gears again. You were talking one more thing before I know we're just about heading down into what is that? That's between turns 2 and 3. Where are we at? It's not the front stretch, but that's kind of an inside joke, I guess. But before we head down into turn number 3, because bad things can happen once in a while over in turn 3, so I'm going to get the heck out of here. You were talking about rookies. We had a couple of rookies last night down there, and I tell you what, both of them really did a good job in the sprint car division. A young kid that had done nothing but turn laps and go-karts before, started out directly into the sprint car class. Jimmy Grasso, of course, he's the son of my announcing partner down there, Tom Grasso, and he made his sprint car debut last night and did a great job. Elected to start at the rear in both of his races. Actually passed some cars in the B main. And did a great job. And the second rookie that started last night, 14-year-old Jackson Sadoff, Johnny Sadoff's son, made his debut in the A-Modified division and did a good job in his heat race. Started at the back, did a good job in his heat race, made the B main event. He was in a transfer spot. Looked like he was going to make the A feature on his first night out, and unfortunately, I think he had another driver do him a little dirty on the fourth turn of the last lap, and kind of ran him up high near the concrete coming out of turn 4, and Jackson backed off just a little bit, and he lost the spot. But I got to give a call to him. He was very competitive in that B main event, and for being 14 years of age and starting out hanging and banging with the big dogs in that A-Mod class, like I said, some youngsters out there getting the opportunity to get up into our sport, and I think they're going to do a great job.
Thanks so much, Stan. What's your schedule like this week?
I think we're taking it easy this week. We're going to do. I don't believe I'm on Friday night. I think you guys are going to hold down the fort over at I-80 this week, and then I'll do Eagle next Saturday night, and I got a full plate during the day, so I'm sure I'll have plenty to do.
Thanks a lot for your time, bud. I always love hearing from you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, man. Thanks, Dirk. See you.
Have a good one.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit of a story about that inside joke. We were calling the races a couple of weeks ago, and I was getting all sorts of flustered and turned around, and I was calling the field, and they were headed down the backstretch. And I said, as the field goes in to turns 2 and 3, and Stan shuts the mic off and goes, "You mean the backstretch?" So he loves to give me a little grief about that, because you get to saying so much, you lose track of what you're saying sometimes.
You are just so easy to give grief to.
I know.
You make it possible for all of us.
Carl Edwards and Rico Abreu just around the corner. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
Don't miss Carl and Rico.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100-plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows. Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs has taken a page out of IMCA's rulebook and gone crate. These brand new low-emission engines will still have you white-knuckling it all through the Metro's fastest indoor facility. Joe's Karting is now friendly for all skill levels with their brand new Honda-powered engines. It's time to get to Joe's today and find out what drivers like Jack Dover, Shaylee Bate, and Andrew Kosiski have known for years. Located in Council Bluffs and online at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Welcome back to the front stretch. Rolling into turn number 3. So, yes, we were on the back stretch just a little bit ago. Now we're going into turn number 3. Oh, I do love Stan. I tell you, if it wasn't for grief, I wouldn't get anything in this world. All right, so we had the rare opportunity. We've been trying so hard to get this guy, and he's kind of a big deal. He's a little busy. He's between him, Clint Boyer, and Jamie McMurray, these guys are just absolutely swamped when it comes to being at the racetrack and fans and sponsors. Carl's got a lot of old sponsors and old supporters of his racing that he needs to take care of.
We were second in line and still ended up talking like 10th or 12th.
Yeah, because it's so hard because I got a microphone and I got another appointment to get to. We had to run down to the other end of the garages to get to Rico Abreu, and there's fans standing there, and so you're like, well, I'd love to put this microphone in front of him and talk to him for a couple of minutes, but he needs to sign that autograph.
Yeah, it was the PR guy come out, and I've known Mr. Fuller for several years, and he said, okay, you guys are second in line. And, yeah, the first one was done, and we're like, okay.
And just to kind of accent it a little bit, so I kind of kicked it off by talking to Carl and asking him, is there any other track that you have more fans at than Kansas?
Kansas is it. I mean, it's so neat to come here. There's so many people who supported me. Not just at the NASCAR level, but guys, like the Ketters I was just talking to. I mean, I raced with them on dirt, and, Mittler Brothers are here. My buddy Cam's here. I mean, we raced. He used to help me with my 4-cylinder car. And I saw a young lady from Godfrey that, Godfrey, Illinois, that, her dad and brother worked there. And so it's just a neat place. And I think for a guy from the Midwest that grew up racing on dirt tracks to come here to this facility and race in the Cup Series is just awesome.
It seems like the track has taken a little bit different rubber. Dirk, my co-host, has reassured me several times that I'm crazy, but is this the darkest that it's getting?
I don't think you're crazy.
Thank you. Okay, well, just one more time. I need to hear that.
Yeah, I don't care. I think Dirk might be off a little bit on that one. I agree with you. I think the track is taking a lot of rubber, and I think that's going to be the key to this race being really neat. You're going to run all the way up by the fence, all the way down to white line. There's multiple grooves, and that's going to make a difference.
I've always admired your ability to take care of sponsors. In my real life, I've been a sales rep, so I've always hounded radio DJs to make sure and take care of sponsors, but I've always watched that you've always found a natural way to work your sponsors into post-race interviews, victory lanes, that kind of stuff. Did you go to a school somewhere to learn that?
No, I just was so broke that I literally would. I mean, I was so grateful for every sponsor and anybody that helped me out that I really believe that being able to talk about folks like Stanley that's on the car this weekend, being able to make sure that they get their message out is the key, because that's why we're able to go racing. This sport works because people market to our fans, and people like Stanley and Toyota and all these folks, they actually believe in this. So for me, it's simple. Without them, we don't race.
Listened to you up in Media Center last year here at the May race, and a little bit of discussion on the aero package. You've got to be happy with this new aero package.
Yeah, I mean, you've been around this forever. You see what's going on. If the more we rely on aerodynamics, the harder it is to really race close. So NASCAR knocking some spoiler off of these things and taking some downforce away has really been huge. I think the racing's been more fun this year than it's been in a long time. So hopefully they just keep working that direction.
Bristol and Richmond were some of the best racing I've seen in 10 years.
Yeah, Richmond really I thought was really good. You had to manage the tires, had to really, you could race close to people, and I think Bristol was good too. But yeah, the more we can do that, the better off it's going to be for everybody.
If you could be racing God for one day and change anything about racing, whether it be a fan-based deal, a performance-based deal, what would that one thing be?
I'd take the spoilers completely off and the splitters completely off the cars, and we'd go race. And that if I could run NASCAR for a month, I'd go race like that.
He's a very big fan of no aero. No aero whatsoever.
Well, I think you'd probably, if we could ever get in with Kyle Larson or Kyle Busch, because Kyle has got great car controls, and I mean Jamie Max out of the dirt. If we could get him, Kyle Larson out of the dirt, those guys would say exactly that. If you take the aero away, it just makes it so much more interesting. And if you don't take the aero away and you want a bunch of aero, give them all the horsepower you can, and you would make Tony Stewart a happy camper.
And we all know Tony Stewart, a happy camper, is a much, much better thing for NASCAR.
Yeah, much funner Tony Stewart at that point.
He seems to be, we kind of watched him. He was walking around. We saw him at the ASCS show at Lakeside Speedway. We saw him kind of interacting with some other drivers as we were waiting for the Carl Edwards interview. And he does actually kind of seem to be a much more relaxed, happier kind of a guy. I mean, they talked about for a while there after the breaking of his leg and then the incident with Kevin Ward where Kevin lost his life and then hurting his back that he got to be kind of a little bit depressed and kind of not his normal happy self. But it seems to me, seeing him in a small window that we did, he's a much happier guy now.
And it was real nice. Good old Midwestern values. Everybody was leaving him alone when he was, just out enjoying himself on a Friday night at Lakeside, or a Thursday night, I should say.
Yeah.
But, nobody was pestering him. And in all honesty, I don't know if some of the people had no idea who he was. But
he doesn't go incognito. You look at him and you think, well, that guy looks like Tony Stewart. And then you look again and you go, but that is Tony Stewart.
He was wearing a pair of jeans and a race car shirt and sunglasses,
You didn't need to tackle him like that and hug up on him and just start crying. That was a little much, Dirk.
Dan, it wasn't me. That was you.
Lies, all lies. So later on, we ran over to the other garage and got a few more steps in on my Fitbit. Not as many as you did, though. But and we talked to a guy who's been on the show quite a bit. I can always remember back when Andrew Kaziski was on the show, and he goes, hey, there's a kid that you need to start taking a look at, this Rico Abreu. He's doing a lot of good stuff in dirt. And so we got him on the show, and then slowly, I think it's probably because he's been coming on the show, he's been getting recognized more. He got a K&N. I'm just kidding. I'm totally
we got
kidding.
him out there.
But he's got a K&N ride. He did really well in the K&N last year, and now he's up into the Truck Series racing for Thor Sports. And so we were talking with Rico, and I kicked it off because it's always funny to watch these guys. And maybe if we have time today, we'll tell the George Brett story we heard in the media center on Saturday night.
That was great.
But these guys have got handlers and they're PR directors, and they tell them, okay, you've got a minute for autographs, and then you've got to go to this appearance, and you got to go to that appearance. And by the way, you might want to grab a snack and maybe some water because you're not going to have a chance for the next 4 hours. And so I asked Rico, because he comes from the dirt world, so it's been much of just kind of like, I'm kind of just loose schedule and hanging around, and there's some fans, we'll go talk to them. But now it's you got to be here. So I started off by asking him, is he getting tired of being ordered around by PR people?
Oh, it's not too bad. This is all part of it, and it's great to have all the Safe Light people out here again this weekend here at Kansas. They are the primary sponsor of my Toyota Tundra, so it's great to have them and get to show them around. It's a new group every weekend, so I enjoy getting to speak in front of them. They actually got a great hospitality tent for the weekend, and hopefully we get a good finish for them.
Thinking back a year ago when you were racing in the K&N series, things were busy then. A year before that, you were racing on dirt. Are you kind of concerned a year from now how crazy things are going to be?
I'm just going with it day by day, really, and one race at a time. So, obviously I hope to keep racing and to our main focus as a team is to get a win, get a few wins, hopefully. I know I came really close last year a few different times and got one win, but we came really close to a couple different tracks I really wanted to win at. So if we can have a good solid run this weekend at Kansas and build some momentum going into Dover, maybe, get some solid top fives.
You mentioned the Safe Light's your primary sponsor on your truck this year, and I noticed you went over to their main headquarters and did a little bit of touring around. Are you ready to start installing windows and filling cracks?
We actually just discussed all that, and I might do a couple call runs with them, and it would be really cool to do it with a race fan and to have that experience of meeting a new fan and changing their windshield at the same time.
My windshield's ate a couple of rocks on the way down to Kansas Speedway, so if you need a volunteer, I'm willing to help out.
Yeah, and now you know who to call to get your windows fixed. So Safe Light's a great group. Like I said, I spent a lot of time there last week and got to see how the whole process goes on, their techs and the vans and them changing windows, and they have drive-ins where people can actually bring their cars in. It's about an hour wait, and they'll change your windshield. They got a great showroom where you can hang out and watch TV or Wi-Fi. They got it all to comfort that employee and to comfort the customer as well.
Noticed you, we listened to you yesterday in the media center when you were up there. Is it tough sometimes working interviews with people that, like, maybe soccer's their number one sport, they don't follow racing? Because you had it's kind of an odd look on your face yesterday when somebody says, how do you qualify for Rookie of the Year?
Yeah, it's tough to answer those kinds of questions just because, you don't really know who you're talking to or what they're trying to get at. So I try to make it as simple as possible and just explain it on how that works, because sometimes they'll send, big companies will send reporters out that aren't aware of the sport or what we do, and they just have to ask questions that they can think of off the top of their head.
Now, with your background with the dirt racing, I mean, I'm dirt for 50 years. Running that sprint car with that big right rear tire where that's the steering wheel basically, what's been your biggest adjustment to coming to the little tiny tire on these trucks?
Definitely the difference in weight to a sprint car is 1,400 pounds. A truck is 3,400 pounds. The horsepower is a little different. You have 600 horsepower to 900 horsepower, and then we're racing 200 and something laps, and now I'm used to racing 30 laps. So the race lengths, the weight ratio different, weight to power ratio, and then live pit stops as well.
But what's your actual biggest adjustment you feel that you have to make as a driver?
Concentrating on a 250 lap race instead of a 30 lap race.
There's been a couple of drivers that have made their way up through dirt, and they've been forced, maybe through contract or safety, to focus only on NASCAR, not be able to go down and play in the dirt. And then there's been other drivers that have been great ambassadors between the two. They'll come down to race a dirt race, and they'll try to bring some exposure down to the dirt tracks. What do you hope your role is as your career grows?
Definitely just to inspire people to do what they love, drive people to the races and to come watch and to come watch how exciting this sport is, and to be able to move back and forth from a truck to a sprint car.
A hypothetical situation, it's always dangerous to put you in these, but if you were to have a Sprint Cup team, let's say it's a Penske or a Joe Gibbs Racing, that was to offer you a contract to say, we'll do a 3-year contract with you, you'll race Sprint Cup Series, but you can't race dirt anymore. Would that be a tough one to sign?
I'd still sign it, just because.
I don't blame you one bit.
I like to race, and if the opportunity's right and if it's with a great team, you got to sometimes make sacrifices.
Curb Records, another one of your great sponsors. Did you get to meet a lot of really cool people with having them as a sponsor?
No, my Curb is great. I get to, do some. I actually got to do a JBL name that song where I got to sing the song, and it drove the fans to guess what song it was. And a majority of the songs I sang were Curb Records songs. So, I know Curb records for a lot of different albums and companies, and it's cool to get there one day, hopefully, and see how it works.
We've asked a lot of people. You were the first one that we asked the question to, if you were the god of racing, what would you change? And we've asked a lot of people since then, and still, by far, every time we give them examples of, we had somebody that said that kids 12 and under get into the races for free. They think that's the best answer ever. So you're holding at the top of the charts for the best answer for that question, by the way.
Yeah, and that's how it should be. You got to drive kids to the racetrack, and all these promoters can't make all the dollars. You got to let the kids come and make make fans, and that's the future of our sport.
So can I ask you that question a second time and you'll get a second wish?
No, that'll be it. I think I'm pretty bold on that, and that's what it's all about, the kids.
We got to start working out deals with tracks about that. We'll give him full credit for it because that was his idea. But, I mean, it makes absolute sense. It's I think it is, of all the answers we've gotten, and we got a lot of different answers this weekend, I think that is the best one.
The Rico Abreu Foundation.
Yep.
Kids get in free.
That's a good call. Let's do that. We'll just take his name for him, copyright it, and trademark it and everything. He can just change his name.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a non-for-profit, so settle down, Dan.
As anything I do is a non-for-profit.
Yeah, even your full-time job.
It's pretty tough when a salesman is a non-profit organization. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 4. You're listening to The Front Stretch on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100 plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
Dan and Dirk are live for one last corner. Give them a call now at 402-573-0590.
We have a Carl Edwards Hero Card we're going to be giving away. So, again, that phone number, 402-573-0590. We've got more trivia ready to go for you. Turn number 4 brought to you by Quaker Steak and Lube at Council Bluffs, the official watering hole of the front stretch. Today is Mother's Day, and so Quaker Steak's knocking down some great deals. $12.99 for the Thunderbird steak or $8.99 for the Biker Chick salad. I hear so many people talk about how good that is.
That salad is awesome, and I'm a guy, so I don't know what it says, but that salad is awesome.
And Mom gets free dessert. They have got some amazing desserts there at Quaker Steak and Lube. I've partaked in many of them.
You think if I shave, I can pass?
I'm going to leave that alone. We'll leave that alone. Let's get to the trivia question. What's question number 2 for us today?
Okay, Kyle Busch has won a lot of races. He's down now to a specific number of cup tracks that he has not won at. So what is that number?
Of the active cup tracks of the races that we hit on a yearly basis.
After last night and his first win at Kansas, a place that he hates and it hates him.
Yep.
So, yeah, but he got the win there last night, so he scratched that off the list. He's got a very short list. How many tracks has he not won at?
402-573-0590. You could take home an autographed Carl Edwards Hero Card. We were gawking at these. They're really cool.
That's one of the neatest hero cards. These guys are really coming around now with the technology and some things they can do with printing these cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's nice.
So let's talk about the results from Kansas last night. I'll be a little bit critical at the beginning. It was rough. But I don't think it was rough because of the aero package or bad anything. I think it was a rough race because Martin Truex Jr. had the best car, by far had the best car.
And then he had Martin Truex luck.
Yeah, that was tough. He led 172 of the 267 laps. And I'm not just saying he led. He was within a lap.
Dominated.
He had a second. I mean, coming out of turn 4 after the restarts, he had a second on the field, and he just kept adding to it. And by the time he came down for the final green flag stops, he had a 5-second lead over the field. And it came down to the weirdest thing. I still haven't gotten an exact definition from it. Jim Laughlin, one of the great listeners for the radio show and a contributor to the show, sent me this text message that it came down to the head of the bolt for the bracket that holds the brake rotor to the hub. That's what broke loose and caused the loose wheel.
I mean, he keeps inventing new ways to lose races.
Hey, we're running out of time, so let's head over to the phone lines. I think we got a winner on the phones. What's your name, bud? Caller, what's your name?
Yeah, Tim from Columbus.
Tim again?
Yep.
Man, you are the luckiest man alive.
I can't let you win I can't let you win twice in a row.
I'm gonna go buy Powerball tickets today. If you don't want me to win the second time, that's fine.
Let me see. Hang on. Let me see if I got anybody else on the line. Otherwise, we'll let you win. Craig, is there anybody else on the line? Okay. Put Tim on hold. We'll go to another phone caller and see if they can get it. If not, we'll let Tim win it again. All right. What's your name, caller?
My name's John.
John, can you do me a favor and turn your radio down in the background?
I did that. Yep.
Appreciate it. All right, now I don't hear me. All right, so what's the answer? How many tracks on the Active Cup circuit does Kyle Busch have left to win at?
Well, I was watching the last 5 laps of the race last night, and I'm pretty sure that he had 3, and now he has 2.
You're
that
absolutely right. Good
John,
job.
John, where are you from?
Humphrey.
Oh, wow, we're getting some stretch out there. Humphrey and Columbus, we're getting out there a ways.
All right, John, hang on the line. We're going to get your information, and then I'll contact you tomorrow about getting your autographed Carl Edwards card.
Thanks for listening, buddy.
Thanks.
And we are running out of time for today's show. So the coming weeks, over the next, 10 weeks, we've got some amazing interviews to play for you between Landon Castle, Ben Kennedy, Spencer Gallagher, Johnny Sauter. Boy, I wish we could have talked to Johnny after that truck race. Ooh. He was a little hot under the helmet. And the one we're going to play next weekend is going to be Pat Warren, the track president for Kansas Speedway. He really opens up and talks to us a lot about what it is to be a track president and how hard it is. Because it's not just schedule and run, it's little minute details you got to make sure and take care of.
And we've got a little bit, we did an interview with him, and then we sat and talked for like another half hour. Mm-hmm. So we've got some off-the-record stuff that a little bit of it we can talk about, most of it we can't, but we will share some of that with you because he was a ton of information for us.
We will preview Dover next weekend, as that will be a Sunday race again. We will get you probably another couple of interviews ready to go throughout the week. So make sure you listen next Sunday morning to the Front Stretch. For Dirk Houston, I am Dan Taylor. Happy Mother's Day, and enjoy your day. This has been AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.